Thomas Partey has been charged with 5 counts of rape.
And where are you reading this story from?
Sky Sports.
Sky
Football.
Sports. Okay, Sky Sports Football.
Yes,
okay.
this is not my creation.
So that somebody will come and say, yeah, no.
Yes, this is not my creation. What is Imota doing there this morning? Does he want to be charged?
No. He wants our listeners to see the story so that there's proof that we are not the ones concocting it. That listeners can also find it on our Facebook stream.
So it's a senior reporter, Rob Dorset,
of
Sky Sports. He put this together. Now, Thomas Partey has been charged with 5 counts of rape and 1 count of sexual assault. The offences relating to 3 women are alleged to have taken place in 2021 and 2022. Partey denies the charges. Partey denies the charges. Partey left Arsenal when his contract expired on June 30, 2025. Now, the first question is, what has Partey been accused of? Thomas Partey was charged on 4th July with 4 counts of rape, 1 count of sexual assault against 3 different women. 2 of those counts of rape are against 1 complainant. 3 further counts of rape are against a second complainant. And the sexual assault charge is said to have been committed against a 3rd. All of the incidents are alleged to have taken place between 2021 and 2022. Thomas Partey has denied all of the charges against him. A statement by Partey's lawyer said, quote, Thomas Partey denies all the charges against him. He has fully cooperated with the police and the CPS throughout their 3-year investigation. He now welcomes the opportunity to finally clear his name. Second question, why did it take so long for charges to be brought? Partey was first arrested on suspicion of rape 3 years ago in July 2022. The Metropolitan Police have been carrying out a full investigation since then. Sky Sports News has discovered that the first report on the case was passed from the police to the Crown Prosecution Service on December 27, 2024, 18 months after Partey was initially arrested. Following further investigations, an updated file on the case was lodged with the CPS in April. 2 months after that, Partey was charged. Rape cases are some of the most difficult criminal cases to prosecute, and the CPS will only charge someone if they believe there is a realistic possibility of conviction. When all the evidence is placed before the jury, it was only once the CPS had reviewed the police evidence against Partey in April that they felt this threshold had been reached and there was enough information to charge him with the alleged crimes. 2 months ago, Rape Crisis published statistics that showed that there were 71,227 cases of rape reported to the police in 2024.
Wow.
Charity believes many more assaults go unreported. Conviction rates in England and Wales for rape and sexual assault are among the lowest for any crime. Only 2.7% of these 70,000 plus cases end up with the suspect being charged by the Crown Prosecution Service, the CPS. Investigations into sexual crimes can often be a long and sensitive process. Was it a coincidence that Partey was charged just days after his Arsenal contract expired?
So that's a question. Okay.
Now, timing of the charges, less than a week after his contract at Arsenal expired, has been the subject of intense discussion on social media. There has been no further comment from the Met Police or the CPS, who are prohibited from making any statement once a legal case is active, in quote, and when it is likely to end up in a court case. But the CPS is importantly independent of the police and makes its charging decisions based only on the basis of evidence it sees. The CPS never alters its time scales to suit a defendant or to fit in with their employment priorities. As soon as the CPS is satisfied that there is realistic prospect of conviction, it will bring forth a charge or set of charges. That is exactly what happened in the case of Partey. The police can accelerate their investigations for a number of reasons, one of which could potentially be because a suspect may have plans to leave the country in future, and they feel it could be difficult to get the individual to return to the UK to face future charges. But there's no suggestion that is the case with Partey. Even though the Ghana international is now free to join any club worldwide following the expiration of his contract. So later, there are times they can accelerate investigations because maybe the suspect could have plans of leaving the country, and they feel they will find difficulties getting the suspect, the individual, to return to UK to face charges. But they are saying that there's no suggestion that is the case with Thomas Partey. Now the next question is, why couldn't Partey be named before he was charged? So initially, you remember there were rumors that Partey had been arrested.
Yes.
And like you said yesterday,
unconfirmed rumors. Yes. And I remember all the stories that came out.
At 29.
Even that, we still can't even tell whether he was the one. But the story that came out, they said a 29-year-old Premier League footballer, blah, blah, blah. All the stories kept saying the same thing.
So we're asking again, why couldn't Partey be named before he was charged? Under UK law, the alleged victims of sexual crimes are entitled to lifetime anonymity under the law. They cannot be identified at any stage, even if the person accused is ultimately found not guilty.
The voice of sports.
By contrast, people who are arrested and accused of sexual crimes are not granted anonymity. However, in February 2022, the UK Supreme Court ruled definitely that a person who is under criminal investigation has a reasonable expectation of privacy prior to a charge. Nathan, you get it?
No. Can you go over?
So, in February 2022,
yes,
the UK Supreme Court ruled definitively that a person who is under criminal investigation has a reasonable expectation of privacy prior to a charge.
Okay.
That led to a huge change in how media reported high-profile individuals who were being investigated by the police for the fear that newspaper or broadcaster might be sued for breaching that individual's privacy. And so, while the accusation against Partey were well known and being discussed openly on social media, Sky Sports News, like other established broadcasters and news organizations, were not able to do so. That led to a bizarre situation where some opposing fans could be heard inside the stadium taunting Partey during Arsenal games with references to his police investigations, even though he could not be named in the media. Once he was charged, the media was allowed to identify Partey at a point without risk of reprisals and report what he has been accused of.
Okay.
So that was how it ended. Now the next question is, why didn't Arsenal suspend Partey?
Okay.
Why didn't Arsenal suspend Partey? This is a key question, and ultimately, it's a decision only Arsenal can answer. They have not done so yet. As Partey's employer, the club had a duty of care over him and an obligation to treat him fairly. Everyone in this country is considered innocent unless they are proven guilty in the court of law. But the club also had a duty of care over other employees, and sometimes in law, the rights of one party can conflict with the rights of another. Sky Sports News has been told Arsenal did not follow the legal advice they had been given from the time Partey was first arrested, which included making sure adequate... Okay, let me take it again. Sky Sports has been told that Arsenal did follow the legal advice they had been given from the time Partey was first arrested, which included making sure adequate safeguarding procedures were in place to reassure other Arsenal members of staff. You understand that point, Ethan? The legal and moral obligation of an employer when it comes to allegations of sexual crimes against an employee is far from clear-cut. In the case of high-profile individuals, a company, into bracket football club, will weigh up a number of factors before deciding whether to suspend them or not. One of the considerations is the club's reputation. How damaging would it be if a player goes on to be convicted of sexual crime and their club decided not to suspend them until they were legally bound to do so? How would such a decision be viewed by, for example, the club's female fans? The principle of law is that everyone who has been accused of the crime should be treated equally and fairly. Ask yourself this question: if an office worker is arrested on suspicion of rape, should they be treated differently to someone in the public eye, like a pop star or a professional footballer? The law says no, everyone should be treated same. But for a football club, the decision whether or not to suspend a player is a much more complicated decision. Manchester City decided to suspend Benjamin Mendy without pay when he was charged with multiple counts of sexual assault in 2021. Mendy subsequently acquitted of all those charges against him in July 2023, and then Mendy was acquitted, and then took City to an employment tribunal. Mendy ultimately won 11 million in damages from the club to cover his lost wages for 2 years while he was suspended. If Arsenal had decided to suspend Partey when he was first arrested in 2022, and if he goes on to be convicted of no crime, the North London club could have faced huge legal bill stretching into tens of millions of pounds. Okay. So the decision to suspend Partey or not was a decision the club had to make, with possible consequences if the man is cleared.
And then if the man is declared guilty.
You understand?
So either way, there were consequences.
Right.
So if they suspend Partey, it comes out that Partey is free, they'll have to pay him a backlog.
Yes.
Suspending him, all of those things. He didn't do anything. Why did you suspend him? Legal fees, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Now they played him during the set period, per what we know.
Yes.
So if it turns out he's actually broken the law, then Arsenal will now face consequences for playing somebody or employing somebody.
So reputational damage.
Reputational damage, yes.
Yes. Now they ask again, why did Arsenal open contract renewal talks with Partey? That is a question.
Yes. On the explainer.
Yes, on the explainer.
Okay.
On the explainer.
Yes.
Sky Sports News reported in April that Arsenal had opened talks with Partey on a new contract. When asked if he wanted Partey to stay at Arsenal ahead of Arsenal's final game of the season in May, Mikel Arteta said yes, he's a really important player for us. And in early June, when Arsenal announced their retained list, the club confirmed they were still in talks with Partey over a possible new deal.
Yes.
There has been no comment from Arsenal on why they were negotiating with Partey while he was still under criminal investigation. And finally, what have Arsenal said since Partey was charged? Now that Partey has been charged, there's very little that Arsenal can publicly say. An Arsenal spokesperson said the player's contract ended on June 30 due to ongoing legal proceedings. The club is unable to comment on the case. The Football Association and the Premier League declined to comment. Detective Superintendent Andy Fairfie, who is leading the investigation for the Met Police, said, "Our priority remains providing support to women who have come forward." Quote, "We would ask anyone who has been impacted by this case or anyone who has information to speak with our team, who has any information to speak with our team. You can contact detectives about the investigation by emailing cit@met.police.uk. That is what they said. What happens next? Partey is scheduled to appear at the Westminster Magistrate Court on Tuesday, August 5, to answer to 6 charges against him. It will probably be 2026 before the case could be heard in a full court trial.
Okay.
In the meantime, the 32-year-old is free to continue his playing career. If he can find a new club that wants to sign him on free transfer. But any future employer will also know he has been charged with 6 counts of rape and sexual assault.
Okay.
Any future employer will also know he has been charged with 6 counts of rape and sexual assault. And he's still free to find a club. But that new employer would know of these charges. So, Nathan, this is the explainer, Mr. Thomas Partey.
This is 40 FM, the voice of sport.